How did Indiana football go from this 1-8 in Big Ten play, 3-9 overall, to 8-1 in Big Ten play, 11-1 overall record in a single year? How did Indiana go from being the laughingstock of college football, a free win to most teams, to making the college football playoff? How did this all happen? One man, Kurt Cignetti. In 2024, this 63-year-old coach took Indiana University, a team with just three Big Ten wins in the last 3 years, and turned them into a national sensation. From quote unquote Google me to sold out stadiums, Cignetti didn't just win games, he changed college football forever, in my opinion. Buckle up because we are diving into how he pulled off the impossible. So, with that short introduction here, welcome into the College Football 360 YouTube channel. Very quickly, we have a lot to get into today. Just make sure that you are locked into the whole video and give it a fair shake. With that being said, let's just dive right in. Okay, so I think it would be adequate to really talk about last season in depth for a couple of minutes here, pull together some numbers so that when I make the point that I'm going to make later in the video, it will make a lot more sense. Okay, so let's get started here. And to start this story, we do need to rewind a bit. So if we go back to December of 2023, Indiana hired Kurt Cignetti, then 62-year-old coach who had never really led a Power 5 program, never led, period, a Power 5 program. Really, a lot of people were skeptical because of that. I was, fans were, a lot of national media members, etc. Indiana, they were coming off of a brutal 3-9 season, their third straight losing year, and they hadn't had a winning record since 2020. And do we really even count 2020? Let's be honest. Known as a quote unquote basketball school, IU football was a laughingstock. They averaged just a measly 3.7 Big Ten wins per season since the year 2000. Think about that. For 24 years, they averaged just 3.7 Big Ten wins. These abysmal numbers will be key going forward with this video. As a side note, Cignetti came in, and when I say he wasn't fazed by any past numbers, he really wasn't. At his introductory press conference, he did not hold back, telling fans to quote unquote Google me when asked about if he was going to win at Indiana, and promised to make IU a contender. Earlier, when he was introduced at the home Indiana basketball game, he was quoted as saying, quote, Purdue sucks, but so does Michigan and Ohio State, go IU, end quote. Naturally, he was torched by the likes of Paul Feinbaum, Joel Klatt, and many other prominent media members for this. And heck, I even clowned him for his antics in the preseason there when he was hired. Preseason 2024, as the months ticked along, was chaotic with, all of his banter, but even more so because Cignetti brought in 31 transfers, and a lot of the holdovers left as well in terms of a personnel standpoint. So with those 31 transfers, he brought in the likes of the Ohio Bobcats 3-year starter, quarterback Curtis Rourke, and rebuilt a roster with one of the smallest NIL budgets in the Big Ten, just $3 million. And you look at what Oregon and Ohio State did last year, $25 million budgets. It's a lot. It was the smallest NIL budget in the Big Ten, and probably out of one of the smallest ones out of the Power 4 schools. Now, we will come back to this transfer portal class because it is paramount to how he really transformed college football, but we'll come back to this. Vegas set IU's win total at 5.5, and they were projected to be a bottom 3 team in the Big Ten. Let's fast track here 8 months, and then came the season, and holy cow, what a season last year was for Indiana. They didn't just win, they dominated. Cignetti's Hoosiers started out 10-0, their first ever undefeated start, crushing teams like Nebraska 56-7, UCLA 42-13, and there were many more losses that I could just go through. They went 8-1 in Big Ten play, like I said at the beginning of the video, beating conference foes such as Nebraska and UCLA, and Michigan and Purdue in the old Oaken Bucket game. That was a score that left jaws on the floor against Purdue, 66-0. Even higher level teams like Ohio State and Oregon weren't doing that to Purdue. I mean, they were beating them, but 66-0, you don't see scores like that, really. You don't see 77 points that they put up against Western Illinois. And that will come back into play, as I'll show later in the video. And, quarterback Curtis Rourke, that's the thing, too. All the transfers panned out. quarterback Curtis Rourke transfer panned out, threw for over 3,000 yards, even with, sustaining that finger injury. And IU on offense had averaged 43.3 points per game, the highest among all playoff teams and Big Ten teams. Their defense rebuilt with transfers like Mikhail Kamara, hit, Aiden Fisher, hit, and D'Angelo Pons, also a hit, held opponents to just a measly 17.2 points per game. This is like if you put Oregon's offense with Iowa's defense and combined them. That's what Indiana was last year. By midseason, Memorial Stadium was sold out. Fans were rocking the football, school t-shirts, and Cignetti's Google Me swagger was everywhere. IU did finish 11-2, their only two losses to the two teams who met in the national championship game, Notre Dame in the playoffs and Ohio State in the regular season. At season's end, they earned a top 10 AP rating, their highest since 1967, and a college football playoff berth to boast. Even though they did lose that game, it's impressive nonetheless. Cignetti made himself history as the first Division I head coach to start 8-1 or better in consecutive seasons at different schools. He did that at James Madison when he started out there. The cherry on top, he swept every major Coach of the Year award from Home Depot to AP. It wasn't just a season, it was a statement. So now let's back up. Let's zoom out. Why does Coach Cignetti's 2024 season matter beyond Bloomington, Indiana? Because he rewrote the unwritten rules of college football, in my opinion. First, he proved that underdog programs can compete with giants. I know it's cliche to say, but Indiana, they had a minuscule $3 million NIL budget for the whole team, and he took down teams that were backed by tens of millions of dollars. You can just go straight to Ohio State, the 24 number, Oregon, who was higher, Texas, who was higher. I know they're not in the Big Ten, but you guys get my point. Their NIL budget was the lowest in the Big Ten. Probably one of the lowest ones in football. Well, in Power 4 football, that is to say. And he showed that strategy trumps cash, and he did this by his process, which leads into my next point, that he mastered the transfer portal. This is what every coach needs to do now, because the portal is the way it is now, and it's probably going to be this way to stay. They can't walk back what they did. They can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, if you know what I'm saying. But let's go into what he did in the portal. 30 new players in one offseason, which was, it was a lot at the time. And then, Purdue came in this past cycle and brought in like 60 players. But we'll set that aside for now. But Cignetti brought in 30 new players in one offseason. And what sets this class apart from everyone else was that over half of that class was players that he brought with him from JMU. All of quote-unquote his guys. I bet you didn't know this, but the stars that you see at Indiana today were all former JMU players, pretty much. Players such as Mikhail Kamara, double-digit sacks last season, James Carpenter, Aiden Fisher, who had 117 tackles last season, D'Angelo Pons, who was a star, Tyler Stevens, lineman, Elijah Surratt, and Kalen Black at running back. And with the exception of Surratt, who was a 4-star, all these players were 3 stars or below in the portal. So he brought his guys with him, guys who knew his style and knew how he operates. And this is what separates out his process from everyone else. While everyone else was paying boatloads of cash to players who didn't even know their teammates' names until the season basically started, he brought in a class of guys who had all played together for years and played for him for years, which is key. In an era of constant player movement, Cignetti's ability to plug and play was a game changer. And lastly, he took over a school with zero swagger. Sorry, I'm switching gears really fast. He took over a school with zero swagger, zero confidence, zero anything. I mean, we can go back and pull up the stats. 3.7 Big Ten wins since 2000. I mean, it was a basketball school. No one cared about it in football. It was a free win for everyone. And he changed that program culture overnight. Do you think his Google Me confidence and slogans like fast, physical, relentless were an accident? No. It was on purpose to get his players, fans, donors, coaching staff, everyone associated with Indiana football to instantly buy in and say, wow, this guy might be crazy, but when you think about what he's saying, he actually might be making a little bit of sense here. His blueprint, bold leadership, portal savviness, and unrelenting belief, really, unrelenting positiveness. And when it comes to his actual gameplay, his style, you could see he was visibly upset when a player would mess up or there was a missed assignment, even when they were up by 50 points against other teams. Personally, I only saw that out of a couple coaches, Urban Meyer, Nick Saban, and you could throw in some other names there who are just they're always striving for excellence, even when they're up by 50, even when they're up by 40. You know, and keeping their players always sharp, always everything. I remember watching a clip of Nick Saban, who just absolutely lost it on the sidelines in one of his national championship games, even though they were up by like 30 points and there was only like 2 minutes left in the game. He absolutely lost it because there was a missed assignment. People didn't know what the signals were. That was a lot of the vibe I got from Coach Cignetti this year. If you watched Indiana football, it was a lot like that. When you go look up Coach Cignetti and you look at all the images on Google, a lot of them are him looking pretty pissed because, in game, because he knows that he has to try to strive for excellence. And even when he's up 50 points versus Western Illinois, everyone still has to look sharp, know their assignments, know everything. And I think that and everything else that I talked about for the past couple minutes here is paramount to early success just in general and success in general as well. Now, as I move on to another segment here, I invite you to expand your thought again here. Traditionally, turning around a college football program takes 3 years, right? Recruit, develop, win. Not for not for Kurt Cignetti at all. His process is faster, smarter, and built for today's game, let's be honest. Unlike coaches who rely heavily on high school recruiting and patience, Cignetti leans hard into the portal, grabbing proven players such as Rourke and Surratt to win now. And like I said before, getting his guys, all of that. At Indiana, he turned a 3-9 really perennial team into an 11-2 juggernaut in 9 months, something that took coaches like Mark Stoops at Kentucky 3 seasons to achieve. And as I implied in the thumbnail a bit, as you look around the country and look at different programs, you can see the 3-year plan in places all over the place, such as Auburn, Michigan State, Nebraska, Colorado, although they're up and down. Need I go on? And these teams have not really delivered on the field yet. Why? Because of the 3-year rebuild. And when you go to these teams that are in the 3-year rebuild, just the players that I named off the top of my head at the outset: Auburn, Michigan State, Nebraska, Colorado, etc. When you look at these teams, it's a lot of bad mixed in with the good. You go to Auburn, they missed a bowl game last season, for crying out loud. They whiffed on their quarterback. They got a lot of nice young talent down there, and they're recruiting good. And I think that they'll be a tough out this season. But it's just, there was a lot of bad last season. Michigan State, Nebraska, same thing, a lot of bad. Colorado, they had some success, but this year I think they're going to revert back to the mean, probably win about 6 games. And the year before, this past year, where they went 4-8, that was a terrible year as well. And these teams really have not delivered. And that's why I think Cignetti is a really good coach, because he delivered on how fast-paced everything is nowadays. His Alabama recruiting background helps him identify talent fast, even with a small NIL budget, and he builds his culture instantly using, like I said, the bold rhetoric to rally players, fans, donors, coaching staff, etc. And unlike the that is really unlike the slow grind of traditional rebuilds that stress patience and development. Not to say that Cignetti didn't develop players, is that he did it faster than everyone else. In the NIL and portal era, where rosters turn over yearly, the 3-year rebuild is slow and takes too many factors to go into it to really succeed. You need to get the development right, the money right, the amenities. You need to have a great roster retention metric and stuff in between that you have to worry about in a span of 3 years. Cignetti's speed is king. Speed is the name of the game now. Let me ask you this. On the field, what matters more than it ever has? Speed. What do you want your linebackers to have? Speed. What do you want, your quarterbacks, your wide receivers, your tight ends even, your running backs, obviously your secondary? What matters? Speed. Speed is king. In the age of social media and instant gratification, what matters when turning a program around? Speed. Need I go on? Now what Cignetti has done with this speed is that he has created for himself a wonderful problem called he's getting recruits into Bloomington that they would have never dreamed of getting if they would have went in the 3-year rebuild process. I mean, he's in contention for 4 and 5 stars all over the place for the 26 and 27 and 28 classes. He's working backwards. You see now, he works backwards. He wins, and then because of the winning, he's going to get players in that he can develop while he already has developed players in to win for him. You see? And I think that that is what is that I think that that should be copied by everyone that is smart. That's on a coaching staff. That is a head coach. Whether you're at the NAIA level, excuse me, or the top level, like we are now with Indiana and Cignetti, I think that this should be copied more. Now, obviously, it's more of a case by case basis. It's definitely not a cookie cutter way to do things. But if you work backwards and you're successful at it, then I think it works really well. Going back to things here, critics like Paul Feinbaum called IU's 2024 run a fluke, like, he does all the time with Big Ten teams. But Cignetti's track record, which is very successful, 112 wins to 35 losses across 4 programs, says otherwise. His process isn't just better. In my opinion, it's the future of college football. Curt Cignetti did not just save Indiana football. He changed the game from 3-9 to 11-2 in 9 months. His portal mastery, unshakable confidence, and historic 2024 season proved that any program can really rise with the right leader and right tactics. With a new $8 million a year, 6-year deal, Cignetti's just getting started. Can he make Indiana a consistent powerhouse? Will other coaches copy his blueprint? That is for 2025 to decide. What do you think? Is Cignetti the future of college football, or was 2024 a one-hit wonder? Basically, what I'm asking is, do you side with me or Paul Feinbaum? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And before we get out of here really quick, I do want to say that some of you will be asking, why didn't you give a prediction? Why didn't you talk about this upcoming year? Because I have another video coming out with my predictions. I have individual videos for predictions and bold, game predictions and bold predictions for pretty much every single team in Indiana included. Those are more personalized videos per team, and I will be coming out with those all throughout July. But I just wanted to really make this video because it is not being talked about enough, and I think it's a great topic for college football fans to discuss in the comments, not just Indiana fans. This is really more so for college football fans in general, not Indiana fans. I love Indiana fans. They're great, and they're coming out of the closet now. So if you're an Indiana fan, like this video, man. But it's really for everyone, and I'd love to discuss. I answer pretty much every comment down below as long as it's in good faith. And I think this was a very fun video to make. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Like you can see, this is a small channel. I do not have 10 tons of subscribers. As of time of recording, I have 346 subscribers. So if we can get that number up, that would be amazing. At this point, I really cherish every single subscriber that I get because I'm so small, but we're hoping to make it big. I do not intend on slowing down at all. I'm making videos day and night, and I am just pumped for college football. That's why I do this. Just on a personal note, I love college football so much. I love my team so much. I'm not ready to disclose which team I'm really a fan of yet. If you've been following me, you can read the tea leaves there, but that's more of an aside. I love doing this, and I love it even more when you guys comment down below and subscribe. It makes my day. All right. That's enough for me. Let me know your thoughts. Subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.